Good afternoon, everybody. On this Hump Day, Wednesday, April 16th, 2025, I'm Dave Neal, and I got all your stories for your rush hour ride home. Can you believe it? We made it over the hump. Good for you. This was a tough one, wasn't it? Well, on today's episode, I'll be discussing Starbucks. They've made new changes, and trust me, it's not the lowering of the prices. And then the MrBeast experience is getting a lot of bad media attention after it was called the Fire Fest of MrBeast in Las Vegas. I'll share that. And Firefighters crashed a romance novel convention, and boy, did people get thirsty. They had to hose them down. I'll share that story. Hilarious story. Plus, Blake Lively made the Time Magazine Influential People of the Year list, and Baldoni's like, what? Really? She's been very influential in making me go broke. So I'll share that story. And then a U.S. Senator from Maryland has touched down in El Salvador. We'll be following his travel vlog journey as he seeks justice and due process. And it looks like the California government, with their governor Gavin Newsom, is suing Trump over their tariffs. So it's getting ugly out there. I'm going to try my best to sanitize these stories so they don't bum you out. That's my goal, is you can leave here having all the information you need, but don't want to have to move to Canada. So anyhow, and not that they're going to let you anyway, all right? Build that wall. They built the wall up north for us to not go in. All right, I got all these stories and more. It's all coming up right now on The Rush. And by the way, there's a lot of games you have to play here on the old YouTube channels. So just so you know, we have been covering the Justin Baldoni Blake Lively case, and we'll have an update in this video. But I just wanted to share you guys all of my content. When I don't mention Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni in my thumbnails, I get only like 20% of the views of my other content. And that's a real problem, and I don't blame my audience. It's actually because YouTube goes, oh, if I share Justin Baldoni content, then YouTube promotes it, and it's called audience capture, and we're not going to stand for it. We cover other things, not just Baldoni. So if you enjoy my coverage and trust that I'll give you Baldoni updates when they come, make sure on YouTube that you're actually subscribed. You know, about 50% of our audience isn't even subscribed. So subscribe and then hit the alert bell, and then know that every day at 3 p.m. Central Standard Time, we'll have an episode up, sometimes earlier, and also same thing every morning at 9 a.m. Central Time, we'll have an episode up. So if you don't see it in your For You page on YouTube, go look for it. It's there. All right, let's go to Starbucks. I love covering Starbucks, right? Their sales have been down, so they're trying all these new things, right? They didn't write on my so they started this Sharpie thing where they were going to bring back writing on people's lids, and they didn't write on my lids. So there we go. I guess I'll go F myself. Either way, here's another update. They'll do anything but lower the prices of their drinks.
Starbucks is rolling out a new dress code for employees. Starting on May 12th, baristas will be required to wear a solid black top, and their bottoms must be a shade of black, khaki, or blue denim. The company says the idea is to simplify color options in order to enhance their signature green apron. The coffee chain says it will provide employees with 2 black T-shirts as the new dress code is launched.
Wow! 2 black T-shirts. What's the sound? People running to pick up a job application at Starbucks? Let them wear a colored shirt. Oh, their green apron's not going to pop. How about this? How about you stop popping into my bank account and charging me $6 for a venti? How about we lower the prices a little bit, right? This is what they literally got a new CEO so he can fly in a private jet from LA to, Seattle or wherever the hell they're brewing these things. And then this is the best they can come up with. It's funny. They'll do anything. And again, this is not just Starbucks. This is every company. They'll do everything except for try to pay their employees a better wage. That's just, maybe that apron will pop better if the employees feel like they love working there. Maybe that. All right. Well, here's your MrBeast story. Now, I'm a big fan of MrBeast. He does more to help people out. Sure, he profits off of it on his YouTube channel, but he uses his YouTube ad revenue to do good out there. But this is a bad PR move, as it looks like his recent MrBeast experience is, I guess it was planned by Billy McFarland from Firefest. That's not true. I'm joking, but have a listen.
Angry hotel guests let the CEO of Resorts World have it, saying an immersive experience they paid big money for turned out to be a bust. From April 13th until today, popular YouTuber MrBeast was supposed to have the MrBeast experience with accommodations, a mystery bag, and a $10,000 voucher for one lucky guest. Fox 5's Sean Dowling heard from some outraged guests.
We were there as about 50 guests told the CEO of Resorts World they want a refund. They didn't get it. Instead, they got a hotel credit. But many guests we spoke to told us the whole thing left a bad impression.
It makes Las Vegas look bad. It makes Resorts World look bad. It makes MrBeast look bad. Like, this is a terrible experience. They gave us an experience, all right? A real bad one.
Oh, geez, yeah, you don't want that. And by the way, MrBeast doesn't need this. This is definitely some managerial issue where they probably delegated this to somebody else because the guy puts on a hell of a video. When he makes content, he spends all the money in the world to make it great. So the way to fix this is just give everyone a refund and then some. I tell you what, MrBeast, give everyone a full refund, then invite them all into some island where they can compete to win the island or whatever. I don't know. This is what, I mean, he's a benevolent millionaire. He does good with what he can do. I just wish MrBeast would get a little bit into politics, right? He makes all these videos like curing people's blindness and helping amputees get the right, crutches and, prosthetics and things like that. He does all these good things. But it's like, well, if we lived in a country where we all pitched into a healthcare system that provided for all, we wouldn't need MrBeast to cure people's, coughs. You know what I mean? It's like he shouldn't have to be Dr. Quinn Medicine Women. But if he was, using that power that he has and that energy he has in a political way to help people get universal health care, he could go from saving 300 people in a video to literally saving 60,000 people a year. Because that's what the studies say, that over 60,000 people a year die in the United States of America from preventable reasons because they don't want to deal with that lump they got on their breast because, they literally don't have the insurance or know it's going to cost an arm and a leg. All right, so let's move it on from there. That's my spiel. This is a great story, folks. This is absolutely hilarious. I scour the internet to find stories half as good as the one I'm about to share with you. And by the way, the title says it all. A fire alarm disrupts a romance book event, causing firefighters to walk into a room full of women. Have a listen to the audience. So they're going quite literally hysterical. These firefighters show up as if they're about to striptease. And they were there just to turn the fire alarm off, but they might have to hose these women down. And here's what the speaker has to say.
Do you guys know Abby Jimenez?
She's pitching her friend Abby.
She writes really good books. She's a #1 New York Times bestseller.
By the way, get yourself a lady that hypes up their friends. The firefighters come in all of their firefighting outfits and they go, do you know Abby Jimenez? She's a New York Times bestseller. All right, and now here she's going to pitch these ladies. Where are my single ladies at?
This is for the audience. This is a question for them. Are any of you single?
All right, so there it is. And the guy, hey, I love it. I absolutely love it. Firefighters, of course, a social democrat program. And by that, I mean we use democracy, right? We use democracy to vote that we all want our houses to not burn down. And, and that's a good example of our tax dollars going to good things. You can't always see the good things that our tax dollars go to, right? Like you don't know tax dollars going to infrastructure like bridges until it crumbles, right? But when it comes to firefighters, we see our tax dollars being put to good use. And in this case, boy, are these firefighters servicing the community, if you ask me. All right, let's move it on from there. We're just crushing it today. Coming up next, we've got Blake Lively, a titan of time, on magazine's 100 most influential people list. I'll share what they had to say. Today's podcast is sponsored by Rula. Telehealth has made mental health care more convenient and accessible for millions of people. Rula is on a mission to make high-quality mental health care from a licensed professional easy and affordable. They take most major insurance plans, and the average copay is only $15 per session. You can now get the quality care you need when you need it at a price you can afford. Rula is committed to supporting you and staying with you every step of the way on your mental health journey, from finding the right therapist to helping you schedule appointments and monitoring your progress. Rula is there to help. Thousands have already trusted Rula to support them on their journey towards improved mental health and overall well-being. Head on over to rula.com/ Top100.com/rush hour to get started today. After you sign up, they ask you where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them our show sent you. Go to RULA.com/rush hour and take the first step towards better mental health today. You deserve quality care from someone who cares. Now, I'm not here to knock Time Magazine. I'm really not. But Time Magazine has kind of become the participation trophy of magazines. And by that, I mean, do you guys remember Wheaties? You could buy a copy of Wheaties that has your own image on the front. Back in the day, maybe it's all digital now, you would like send in an image and then they would send you back a copy and it would cost you $30 or whatever. And you'd be like, see, look, I was, junior varsity T-ball master or whatever the hell going on. But it's true with Time Magazine because look, 2 years ago, your boy Dave Neal was featured in Time Magazine. Why fans are listening to the Bachelor podcast instead of watching the show. Now, back then we were called Bachelor Rush Hour. Now we're called The Rush Hour with Dave Neal. But again, it was hilarious. I mean, they were literally did a quick little blurb on me. Now, I'm no titan of the industry, but hey, Time Magazine, if you're out there and you want to do a new feature of me, I'm all ears. Let's get into it. Well, Blake Lively featured, and this is obviously going to enrage those that are fans of Justin Baldoni because she's in a lawsuit where many people, I would say the majority, believe he has been he's had his likeness and his kindness taken advantage of by her in an attempt to take over the film, post-production, and whatnot. People can come to whatever conclusions they want. It's going to court March 26th of 2026, unless they settle beforehand, which doesn't look like it's going to happen. Blake Lively has raced past influential person and taken on immortal status because Time just named her a titan on its annual 100 most influential people of 2025 list. Well, I guess she's on the list of most influential celebrities racking up legal fees because we know there's hundreds of millions of dollars on the line. And I'm guessing they've already spent tens of millions just in the pre-trial motions they've all filed. She was included on the list in the Titans category alongside recognizable names like Serena Williams, SNL creator Lorne Michaels, Simone Biles, and Mark Zuckerberg, along with a coterie of other famous faces. Now, why is this news? Well, TMZ knows what they're doing. They know people are going to hate read this, and that's why we're covering it. Not that I hate her. I was like, good, be influential, but at the same time, don't let karma bite you in the ass, right? The Titans category is for people who are leaders in their field and those who have made a transformative impact on the world. So what field is Blake Lively leading in? The field that commandeers post-production and feature films? In that case, yes, she is a titan of her industry. In past years, the honor was given to big names like Bill Gates, Michelle Obama, and George W. Sherilyn Hill, a notable civil rights attorney, wrote the blurb about Blake for the publication, saying she's never seen Gossip Girl or paid much attention to Blake on the red carpet, but knows her instead as a philanthropist and a student of our country's most intractable problems. All right, well, let's see what we can say about Blake Lively. This is the blurb she wrote for Time Magazine. I don't know the Blake Lively of the red carpet or the Met Gala. I never watched Gossip Girl. The Blake Lively I know is a philanthropist and a student of our country's most intractable problems. She and her husband, Ryan Reynolds, reached out in 2019 to make a contribution to the NAACP Legal Defense Fund. I had been getting a few of these calls as our work fighting against voter suppression and police brutality was receiving national attention. I'm always curious about the kind of research famous people do before they make that cold call to offer their support. The ones I have remained in relationship with are those who, like Blake, really did their homework. I admired immediately her curiosity and her sincere work to understand the conditions that shaped the country. I remember an early conversation in which she expressed frustration that so much of our nation's history was not part of the instruction she had received as a student. Her commitment to filling those gaps and becoming the most fully informed and prepared citizen is what I appreciate most about her. Blake is a serious person. She's a risk taker, and she's committed to moving this country forward for her children and for mine. And that's from a civil rights lawyer. So that's a great blurb. And look, multiple things can be true, right? She can donate to the NAACP Legal Defense Fund, which is good. It's also a tax write-off, and when you're making billions of dollars, you need a philanthropy system, right? I would love to be in the world where I'm making so much money, I need to start hiring our pal Denise over here to just dole that money out to all of the different organizations we love. As far as right now, we don't do it in any tax exempt way. We just sort of use a platform to get donations for single moms during Christmas and things like that. But I mean, I love it. I love charity. It's great. Look at MrBeast, right? He's trying to cure blindness and rip people off in Vegas. I mean, it's a good thing, right? But the point here is this is great PR for her. So do you think that Time Magazine just randomly sat down and had a whiteboard and said, who are the 100 most influential people out there? Or do you think this is part of the PR game where you say, all right, and again, it doesn't look, she made this donation in 2019, but this is what you do. When you are famous, you make these donations in part, I'm not saying all, but in part because you'll have favors you can pull on later on. I mean, that's just what you do. It's part of the sort of wiping your hands clean of how rich you are. It's like there's a little bit of a guilt there. It's like, we're worth so much money. All right, let's donate. And again, like I said, it's a tax write-off. So either way, there's the blurb about her. And they made that big donation back in 2019. I'm sure they've made plenty of donations since then. But there are issues with systemic racism. Like these things all do exist, which, it doesn't have to be one versus the other. You can't say, well, I better not support Justin Baldoni now because Blake Lively donated to, raise attention for equality. Both things can exist. But make no mistake about it. This is good PR for Blake Lively. Now, if you know the full story, you might go, Dave, what are you talking about? No, it's not. She did X, Y, and Z. Maybe, but to the common person who's not in our comment section every day, they see this and they associate her as an influential person who did good. But then again, you also have to wonder, who the hell is still reading Time? Like when I was featured in Time Magazine, I'm here to tell you this right now. You click on that, it goes directly to my page. I'm telling you right now, I don't know one person that says, Dave, I started listening to you after you were featured in Time Magazine. I don't know one person who did that. It's just a way to brag to your parents' friends who still get the periodical. Alrighty, well, let's move on to some other. Speaking of, you want to talk about influential people? Do you want to talk about influential people? How about Senator Chris Van Hollen from Maine? Arrives in El Salvador to advocate for the release of Kilmar Abrego Garcia. Now, I shared his earlier video on my Instagram. I'm not going to share it here, the Rush Hour with Dave Neal, but you can go there and check it out on our Instagram. And you can see he's been documenting his journey to El Salvador. Now, we still have people saying, Dave, this bad guy was a member of the MS-13 gang, which is just a parroted talking point that actually has no evidence. We'll get to that next. But here is the senator working for his people to say, you're not going to disappear anybody in my state that I'm represented in without me trying to get due process. And again, for those that wonder and aren't familiar, due process means you have a chance to defend yourself in front of a judge. You don't just get sent somewhere to never be returned. Let's have a listen to what he had to say.
Reported in San Salvador a little while ago. I'm now en route into the city. Looking forward to meeting with the team from the American Embassy. And I do want to thank our Foreign Service officers and the whole team at this embassy and embassies around the world for all the good work they do on behalf of our country. I'm proud to co-chair the bipartisan Foreign Service Caucus that stands up for the men and women who are serving our country overseas and at home in the State Department.
Now, you have a lot of people wondering, geez, he must be shaking in his boots. They could just throw him in prison there. Listen, sunlight's the greatest disinfectant. The best thing he can do is document every step of his journey to ensure his safety. It's the same reason if you see someone get pulled over or if you see someone getting arrested, it is good for democracy to film that. That ensures that you're doing your job, I'm doing my job. It's the same reason we have health inspectors going into kitchens to make sure they're abiding by the rules and regulations so there's no, chefs walking around, eating their fingernails and getting them stuck in your chicken cacciatore, right? It's all about, everyone living in a system that makes sure it is safe and kind and all of that. And good for him for sharing his journey.
After that, I hope to meet with some high-level government officials from El Salvador. As I've said before, the goal of my visit is to talk to people here about the release of Kilmar Abrego Garcia. I told his wife and his family I would do everything possible to bring him home and we're going to keep working at this until we're successful. I also hope to have the chance to meet with him, but we'll have a better idea if that works out a little later on.
And again, people are wondering, is he alive? In our country, you can be behind prison and still meet with your lawyers and have a trial or have an appeal, and you can do all of these things. And I think that's what's important, right? Is being sent to a country that has substandard rules is not a good thing. That is not a good thing. Our country is flawed, but we do have civil liberties. Even if you're behind jail, you still have certain inalienable rights, even if you're not a citizen of the United States. More examples, and we'll get back to the immigration in a second, but coming up next, more examples of how this bizarre and ill-planned tariff war is leading to massive, massive strife for American companies. That next. Well, as we talk about tariffs, I'd be remiss if I didn't share what President Trump had to say yesterday. The United States is taking in record numbers in tariffs, with the cost of almost all products going down, including gasoline, groceries, and just about everything else. Likewise, inflation is down. Promises made, promises kept. Now, to say this is a bold-faced lie doesn't quite address what's going on. Tariffs are taxes on the consumer, right? So the price of goods will be going up indefinitely. Like, this is happening. You know, it's only been a week or so since these tariffs, the 10% tariffs, took place. Many companies are just saying, you know what, we don't even want to do business under these conditions. And this is what Boeing now is being, the orders are being canceled by China, which is enormous. I believe something like 25% of Boeing's business goes to China, and Boeing was one of the great American companies, the maker of the aircraft. Of course, in recent years, it's been a disaster as Boeing's had lots of issues with their aircrafts. But now if China stops an order, I mean, this is huge. Have a listen.
China has ordered its airlines to stop taking deliveries of Boeing jets. Sources tell us that Beijing also asked carriers to halt purchases of aircrafts, related equipment, and parts from U.S. companies. The Chinese government is also considering ways to assist airlines that lease Boeing jets and are facing higher costs.
Now, as far as negotiations concerned, whether it's right or wrong, as they've said, China's been around for 5,000 years. They're going to ride this thing out, and if we actually play chicken with them, we're going to lose. There is just no way the U.S. wins this. And don't take my word for it. Here's former SEC Chair Gary Gensler discussing the inevitable massive trade war, as the U.S. has just increased reciprocal tariffs somewhere into the 200% range. It's absolutely banana land.
I spent a lot of time with their Ministry of Finance and their senior financial regulators, and I think it's not going to end well, Andrew. I think it's going to be a bit of a quagmire. My experience is that they're tough negotiators, don't get me wrong, and they're looking out for their advantage. But the best way to handle that situation is to be consistent, to be honorable and treat them with dignity, and to take the toughest messages private and one-on-one. And I will tell you this, when they see inconsistency in policy, they tend to veer back. They lean back and they don't like to engage. And they sort of think that time is on their side. I'm not saying it always is, but that's how they think, is time's on their side and they can outweigh the volatility of the policy on the other side.
Yeah, I mean, that's essentially what's happening. I mean, the Trump administration it's like they're trying to train a dog, but not being consistent with their commands, right? They're yelling, stop, lay, move, hey, Jimmy, move a thing, and versus sit, right? And that's what a tariff is. If you're going to do it, you can do it long term and say, here's the tariff. This is what it is. And that could maybe get a company to come back to the U.S. But in this case, they're all over the place. And again, it's just not happening. All right, enough on tariffs. We're going to go back to the El Salvadorian man who was deported. I want to share what his attorney had to say, and then I'm going to share what a legal scholar has to say about how the executive branch, and when I say that, I mean Trump, is consolidating power and being judge and jury. Have a listen to his lawyer in their hopes to get back Abrego Garcia.
Do you believe, or do you have reason to believe, that he is gang affiliated? That's why he was afraid of gangs back in El Salvador, and that he does have an affiliation?
just by you saying somebody's a hardened criminal doesn't necessarily make them so. This is an individual who's married to a U.S. citizen, who has 3 U.S. citizen kids, who has no criminal record, who's a union member, and who pays taxes. I thought those were the kind of people that we said that we weren't going after when we were targeting deportees. There's nothing in there that makes me believe that he is an MS-13 gang member. An IJ looked at this, an immigration judge looked at this in 2019, found nothing that believed he was a gang member, because that would have barred him from that form of relief if he was a member of a gang.
And this seems to be the big issue people have, is they go, why are you supporting a gang member? And the idea is we need to have a burden of proof that is above a reasonable level if we're going to be sending people to prisons in other countries claiming we'll never be able to get them back. Here is the U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi when she was asked if the government could provide any evidence whatsoever that he was an MS-13. I mean, if he has a tattoo that's like MS-13 and it's like a known dragon and it's got a barcode that's his specific number, his position in the game. If any of that exists, let us know. But if it's because he wore a Chicago Bulls hat, don't you guys think this is a problem? If it's because he was at a Home Depot soliciting day labor work and he was next to somebody else who had been in a gang in the past, that's a problem. Look, I lived in East Los Angeles where nearly every one of my neighbors in one way or another was affiliated with the gangs because they controlled the neighborhoods. Do you blame the individual people if they have to live in a world where there is a gang issue? Absolutely not. And in this case, if there's no evidence that he was a member of the gang and committed crimes, then what are we doing? And this case is becoming a pivotal case in our country's history because we're continuing to be lied to and no evidence being shown. And trust me when I say the court system, the Supreme Court, and then the court that ruled before the Supreme Court, they're saying, show us the evidence or bring him back. And they're not seeing any evidence of the administration trying to bring him back. This will end with contempt, which means it will end with someone going to jail if they don't get him back. That's the rule. That's the law of the land.
The evidence that he's MS-13 so they can make an informed decision. And that goes the same with this Henry Josue Santos, who was picked up in Virginia, who is now presumably going to be deported as well. Why not show the public the evidence?
Well, he is an...
So the question was, why not show the public the evidence? Let's watch as Pam Bondi stretches and does Cirque du Soleil sort of maneuvers to bend herself around answering this question.
Illegal alien who has been living illegally in our country from El Salvador. ICE testified, an immigration judge ruled he was a member of MS-13. An appellate judge ruled he was a member of MS-13. Hard stop. He should not be in our country.
So it sounds like all the information they have is that ICE testified. Now, that testimony has been grilled and overturned, at least to the extent where it's like they're afraid to show the math on this, which goes to show that they don't really have any evidence linking him. And again, can we say we don't trust ICE at this point when we see them breaking in car windows and disappearing people because they wrote in an op-ed in a student newspaper? The fact that more Americans aren't outraged by this actually does to me, it is surprising to me when I thought we were all sort of on the same page here.
He was deported. They needed one additional step in paperwork, but now MS-13 is characterized as they should be, as an FTO, as a foreign terrorist organization. So he is not coming back to our country. President Bukele said he was not sending him back. That's the end of the story.
And by the way, this is interesting, right? Because in the past, you go, oh, the failed media, the liberal this. This is Peter Doocy, who is Fox News, right? And he's been very tough on the Democrats. And now he's holding truth to power, so I got to give him credit here for asking these questions, even if he's not getting the answer he wants. Here's a law professor discussing the Trump administration's deciding for themselves who's a criminal and who's not.
They are deciding and considering themselves the sole arbiters of who's a criminal and who's not. I mean, that's the matter of the Alien Enemies Act. It's the matter of Abrego Garcia. And just in that exact same press conference, Carolyn Levitt made a number of claims. He is a member of MS-13. That has not been established. In fact, the court of law actually found to the contrary. He is a terrorist. The executive branch doesn't get to decide that. It doesn't get to decide that for citizens. It doesn't get to decide that for non-citizens. But when you start talking about sending homegrown, it actually reinforces a fundamental point about the Abrego Garcia matter, which is to say, America is paying for this. If you want to pull the plug on the payments, and Donald Trump is saying, hey, we'd like to build 5 or 6 more of these, that shows you who's really in control. These individuals are there under custody in a foreign country because it's what the administration wants.
There it is. Yeah. We are paying our tax dollars, $6 million a year for this specific prison. And Trump says to the president of El Salvador, he wants 5 more of these. And he says, I don't care if you're a violent criminal, you should go over there. And I have the opinion that if you're a violent criminal, you should stay in the United States, in our prison system. I think we shouldn't have a for-profit prison system. I would much rather all our time and energy go towards taking away the profit model of our prison system, removing nonviolent criminals that might have done marijuana before it was legal and they're in jail. This is what we should be doing in our country, is ramping up the actual prosecution of real crimes and not using like, all right, you got a Chicago Bulls hat on and you look brown, I'm going to send you here, and hoping that the country is naive enough and racist enough not to care. I still argue from the top of my soapbox that we are kind enough and that we appreciate democracy enough that we will stand up, educate our neighbors as to why this is a big deal, and applaud the system when they bring this guy back home. Also, just a reminder out there that YouTube does really value the like button. So if you enjoy the content we're making, please consider liking it and leaving a comment. We're obviously battling a decent amount of dissent from people that might not enjoy what we do, or they hate watch and they leave negative reviews on podcast apps. And that's okay, right? Everyone's allowed to give their opinion on things. But I'm just asking those that enjoy that we're using our channel to speak truth to power, if at the very least you could leave us a nice review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or here on YouTube by hitting the like button and subscribing. It's greatly appreciated. If you want to go further than that, you can subscribe to the Patreon, patreon.com/Dave Neal, where we have daily private live streams and you can be a part of the behind the scenes community. Here's Gavin Newsom saying he's going to sue over these sham tariffs. Have a listen.
Today, I announced a lawsuit on behalf of the state of California suing the Trump administration. California is the largest manufacturing state in our union, one of the largest trading partners around the globe. No state will be impacted more than the state of California as it relates to the unilateral authority that's being asserted by the Trump administration to impose the largest tax increase in modern American history.
So there it is. We have California suing Trump. We have Trump suing Maine. Boy, these judges are working overtime. Now, this is going to be very cryptic, what I'm about to share with you, but it comes from a British person, so it has to be good, right? We love the British accent. But it's the idea that these trade policies are going to lead to multiple things. Inflation's about to skyrocket because cost of goods are going to go up between 10 to 200%, depending on if you buy something in Vietnam or China or wherever it's coming from. And also, we've got the system being gutted. And that I mean Social Security offices being shut. People can't get through on the phone. They can't get paid. So while they say they're not cutting Social Security, they're making it very hard for people to get in touch with someone so that they can get their deserved payments. We're also seeing all these other social fabric programs being stripped. At what point do people come together like caged rats, really, and get violent in the streets? Now, I'm not calling for that, but we know that is the final step when it comes to people trying to speak truth to power. Have a listen. Very cryptic stuff, not here to fearmonger, but this is the path we are going down.
When Americans start feeling the pain of what these policies could lead to, you will get civil disobedience and civil violence and retaliation in the street, and you'll get protests. And at that point, does Donald Trump bring out the military? And because he has a complicit defense secretary and a complicit joint chiefs of staff, does the military do what Donald Trump wanted them to do in the first time, which is shoot at American citizens? And I think that's the kind of scenario we have to keep watching. And it's where you get from trade wars to kinetic wars, potentially.
Potentially. And we hope we don't get there. on behalf of everybody, I think we hope we don't get there. But, you know, this sort of framework of what may go down when you violate a very tricky world economy, right? The one small decision like butterfly effect can have these large impacts to the point where the Olympics might not come to the U.S. or countries might just boycott the Olympics. We saw, covered this morning how there's virtually, tourism has plummeted because who would want to come here and risk whether or not they get detained because they once tweeted something bad about the president? It's supposed to be the land of the free. Right now, it's the land of fear. And we're here to speak truth to that. If you enjoy what we do, consider sharing us with a friend. It's the best way for my channel to grow and to continue to be able to speak. When I talk about sunlight being the greatest disinfectant, we need as many eyeballs on what we're talking about as possible to protect us from one day not being shut down. We are not that far away as we are seeing protesters being disappeared at college campuses. At what point does it turn into the media as well? I hate to see that day come, but the best thing you can do to support us is join Patreon, patreon.com/Dave Neal. It is our private membership community. It's the only way we ever ask for donations if you want to be a part of that subscription model. But again, as I said before, sharing us with a friend is also great. It's free, and it's the best way to spread the grassroots movement. We'll be back in the morning. We'll see you then. I'm Dave Neal, and this is The Rush.